Hey guys, and welcome back to another faction overview guide for the Lord of the Rings Total War mod for Rome Remastered. And today we're going to be going over Lothlorien and the Elves. And as always, we'll be talking about four things: their initial provinces and starting locations, their beginning army, their economy, and then just my early expansion tips and personal recommendations. They have made some changes. If you've watched my recent guide on Mordor, I talked about how they've added in a bunch of new settlements. So the last time I played this, these three settlements here were not here. And then they've also added in this kind of realm thing, I think. Anyway, I don't remember it being there before, but it just provides some public order and tax income bonuses as well as a large population growth bonus. Because I remember it was one thing I mentioned to them. The mod team anyway, where you get your population like super high for settlements that are still developing, and it gets to like 9 or like 10,000, and then your population growth just basically becomes non-existent because of squalor and whatnot, and there's just nothing really to boost it. And so I think that's been added in there. I could be wrong, but and in all things considered, it's a very nice addition because it does help with growth for the elves, because their population is fairly small, all things considered, and so it's just a nice bonus. But anyway, let's just start in with the initial provinces. So now you start with three, with Karis Gladhon, Sorin Amroth, and then Tur Nimrodel. I think is how you say that one. That's a new settlement that they started out with. When I first started playing the mod, it was just these two, so it's nice that they added in a third one. I've played another campaign of it just a little bit. I haven't gotten too far in depth with it since these changes. But one thing I would definitely recommend is getting some walls put up here, just because this settlement is fairly close to Moria, and you are at war with the orc rabble. So it's kind of think of it as like it's a town, but it's also like a outpost a little bit, where if they're coming to attack you here, like at least they take this small settlement that's really not developed, rather than losing one of your two major ones here. But the nice thing is they are all, if I click and drag here, you should be able to see they're all like within one turn of each other. And so if you do need to reinforce from any one of the settlements, really, you'll be there in 1 or 2 turns, maximum being 2 turns to get to over here, or if just 1 turn from here to here, or from here to Karis Gladhon. So that's really nice, really defensible. You're protected, not necessarily by the mountains, but like the rivers, so it's a little harder to cross. They can't just come through in any direction. They have to cross certain points. And once you expand, which I'll talk about later on in the video, but these settlements just become really nice as kind of like outposts. So if Mordor starts coming up here, or Isengard for some reason again, or the orc rabble, it's just kind of nice where it's like, okay, they aren't really developed, but at least if they're coming to attack you, you kind of get a heads up that way. But really, that's all the initial provinces. I mean, they're not really built up. As you can see here, like they have the city hall basically, or like the level at which the city is at. But really, there's not much built. The good thing is the economy is pretty good. You got a large population and really good public order. So if we just adjust the taxes here, we're at a little over 1,200 in terms of income. And if I just go through, maybe, it almost triples our economy just by doing the taxes alone, and everything's still in really good public order. So the economy's pretty good there for the provinces. So you're able to, really, if you want, you can just go full economy, or you can, start building up your infrastructure for military purposes, so you can be able to defend yourself a little better there. Speaking of defending yourself, that kind of moves into your initial army, which is pretty small. But when it comes to elves, just because you don't have a lot of forces doesn't mean you don't have a strong army. Just because the elven units are super strong, I mean, their basic swordsmen here have 7 melee attack, 17 defense. It's really, really strong. Which I'll also, at the end of the video, have a link to my unit guide tutorial that I did a while back. That's still relevant. Excuse me, relevant. If I could find my words. Nothing's really changed. A few stat things I know from one of the modders, or the mod developers told me they've given the Galadrim Sentinels more ammo because their ammo is pretty short. Their ammo here is pretty small in terms of supply. Which they did tell me they added a little bit of upkeep cost, but really I think it's worth it to have more ammo because first and foremost it is a missile unit. You know, that's what the elves are known for, so give them some ammo. So I really like that change. But yeah, I mean, in my recent goes through, I mean, you can get like 14 or 15 units put together, and it's more than enough to defeat these rebels. It's mostly rebel garbage that are all really susceptible to missiles, and you'll really have no problem, taking these 4 settlements here. Your units, even though, again, you may not have many to start with, you can easily start recruiting. You got the money, you got the funds, and your initial army that you do start out with here is good enough to let you expand a little bit to, again, just build your empire, build your economy here a little bit. And then we'll just go into economy then. You know, it's kind of just actually working out that we're going into the next topics. Really, like, their economy is pretty strong. With the addition of the tax income bonus and public order and population growth, that basically, especially with the elven units, with their entities being smaller per unit card, which means you're going to be spending less. So if I recruit a unit here, obviously it takes 72 out, but with the replenishment being so high, you're going to get that number back faster, so it's not going to hurt your economy as much as it did before. And then not to mention, I mean, just their basic economy buildings, their trading posts. They also have mines now, so that will, definitely help things. You got the forge that increases your trade income bonus. Really, really strong economy, really for any faction, but again, the elves are just one of them where you won't have to worry. Just be mindful, you can't spam troops to the point you go in the deficit, so, there needs to be a balance of, getting the military buildings built, but then also getting your economy infrastructure buildings built. And one thing that is nice, now that they have adjusted the economies and brought in more settlements, because more settlements means more population, more money, more people that are being taxed to, make you money in general. So the good thing with all these extra settlements is you're going to be making a lot more money, which can justify actually building more of these like light attack and heavy attack buildings that decreases your tax income by it's usually 1 or 2%, I think, once you get to the upgraded tier. Because before in my videos I talked about how these are not worth it because, as the elves you really needed kind of every last penny because your troops are so expensive. But now that you can expand a little easier and build your economy a little faster, a little better, it's just easier to justify, increasing your the strength of your armies by building these buildings. I haven't gone in depth and seen just how far you can take it because your units are so strong, just with their base stats. But if you want to build them now, it's not going to be as harmful, again, to your economy. So something to keep in mind later down the road if you're just, rolling in cash and you're not sure what to build and you want to see how strong you can make an army, throw them in there, see what happens. And like the nice thing is too, I always talk about it, but use the settlement income tab here to see how much it's going to affect your economy. So if I build, the trading post, it tells me right here how much it's going to increase my income. And if I were to build this light attack +1 building, it tells me, how much it's going to decrease my income as well per turn. So really use this when you're building that. You don't want to build all of them here. If you build all 4, it's a -300, which, to start really isn't necessary, but just something to keep your eye out on. And then lastly, just my personal recommendations in terms of expansion. Usually I have always started off with Amon Gastel here for a few reasons. One, It's a little further out in terms of like your initial provinces here and these three rebel ones. So if for some reason the orc rabble would come down here, you got a little more of a line of sight to know when they're coming. And also it's the least defended of them. I've gone through 2 trials now, and I've brought in a few troops over here and like tried to like meet or get them to meet up like right here, for example, and they actually come out and try and attack you right here. And even with these troops, your army is just vastly better than those rebels. So really, I'd recommend doing Amon Gastel first, and then coming back down here, because at that point, then too, you'll have had time to recruit a few more units. You can pick them up along the way, and then take out some of these larger garrisons. And also, I've even seen the rebels actually leave some of these settlements. In terms of, you know, they'll take like 6 or 7 of these units and like just stand out in the territory and actually not be in the settlement. And so, you know, if you go for them right away, you're actually making the fight harder for yourself because you're fighting more units. But at the end of the day, you know, choose the path you want. I just like it because you're kind of going clockwise. So you start up to the north here and you come back. That way, if for some reason the enemy or the AI becomes super aggressive and wants to attack you right away, your troops are coming back. And since you're attacking the least defended settlement first, you're more likely to not take as much damage in that first fight. So, you know, your initial army is going to be in better condition to be able to repel an enemy attack or invasion, just because you didn't take that much damage to begin with. After the initial provinces here, it's kind of a 50-50, because it goes back to my other unit guide. I think I talk about it in the unit guide, I'm not sure. But you kind of have a toss-up where you can go west to Moria or east to Dol Guldur. Personally, I recommend going to Moria and then also capturing, if I toggle the Fog of War here. If you take Moria and then take Austin Edul, and then you may have to take some of these settlements now. The AI, like the Free Peoples or Rivendell, might actually take these. But the reason why you take Moria and Austin Edil first is because it allows you to actually start trading with them, and you make money through them with trade. And the Dunlendings here they're just absolute garbage. They're not good against elves at all. All of their units are weak and vulnerable to missiles. So, I mean, I've had, you know, one stack of elves and archers and whatnot take out 2 full stacks of Dunland armies. It's really not a threat. It's more if they attack you, you know, okay, it's you attack them, you get rid of them, and if they leave you alone, then they leave you alone, and you get trade uninterrupted. Also, when you go east and you take Dol Guldur, it can be a somewhat difficult siege, just depending on the type of units you bring. I mostly use a lot of missiles with my elven armies just because that's what they are good at. But if you take Dol Guldur, it almost seems like the AI gets pissed off at you and they keep trying to come up here. But on the flip side, if you don't go east, and all of my campaigns actually, it does make it harder to take out the orcs of Mordor here, just because at that point they usually have sent a few armies up here to just reinforce it because they are at war with you, so they are going to have that anti-player bias to, you know, just send troops up here to attack you basically. And usually if you repel them, they aren't as aggressive, but they will just sit the armies here. So it's kind of a toss-up. You either go west and supply or secure the economy a little more, make the economy a little stronger, or, you know, take out, just get Mordor's presence out of here right away and fight, you know, ambush them a lot of the time. So it's up to you. I just wouldn't go further south than, like, if you go east here to Dol Guldur, I really wouldn't go south. I don't believe you can upgrade these 2 settlements, I believe. I've captured them as Mordor, and I haven't been able to, so I think it applies with the elves as well. So I mean, if you really wanted to, you'd have to keep going further east, but then you're looking into, you know, Dale and the dwarves, and Rune is going to be over here, and you may want to focus just on other things. But at that point, it's kind of just up. It'll be up to you guys individually what you want to do. But really, again, after the initial 4 provinces here, you need to decide if you want to go west or go east. And whichever direction you do choose to go to, just go all in on it. Don't send like 8 units over here, 8 units over here, and hope you can win, because it's not going to benefit you at all if your army loses. It's just going to cause you more headaches because you're going to have to go back and fight it again. But yeah, that's everything really with Lothlorien. It's one of the shorter faction overviews, just because I mean they don't really have too big of an army. They only have a few settlements, and so it's just kind of short and sweet to the point. So leave a like, leave a comment below. What you liked, what you would have liked to seen if I missed anything, and hopefully I will catch you guys again soon. I plan on streaming tomorrow on Sunday the 24th, so I hope to see you guys then.